So I trimmed most of the fat off the pork tenderloin, and I just used my knife and sliced down the middle, not all the way through, and sort of opened up the pork tenderloin. Now I'm going to make the pesto. It is about a cup of fresh basil, about 2 tablespoons of parsley, 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. The recipe calls for a clove of garlic. We like garlic, so I'm going to put in 2. It calls for a tablespoon of lemon juice, and I'm going to use a fresh lemon with my Pampered Chef lemon juicer thing, and a tablespoon of pine nuts. I'm putting everything for the pesto into my little mini chopper. That is not a full-sized one. If you could look at it next to the Parmesan, it's a tiny little food processor. Very cheap little device that I use all the time for this recipe. Next I'm going to add in the lemon juice, and with this Pampered Chef thing, all you do, you put it in this way. You think you put it in this way, but you put it in this way, and I'm going to show you how you just squeeze it into the food processor. The idea is just to press down on the lemon, which is, again, put in it this way. I just added in the pine nuts, but I wanted to mention that the pine nuts are optional. If I don't have them on hand, I don't use them in this recipe. It doesn't really make much of a difference in the taste. I just added a little sprinkling of pink Himalayan salt to it. That is optional also. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. And you could also add some pepper. I'm not a fan of pepper, so I don't add it. Add a few more basil leaves to this because it wasn't looking as green as I wanted it to. I have a little plant up there. I got that planter from Walmart, and I put some basil and parsley in it on my kitchen windowsill. So I have the parsley and the basil right at hand. So this is pretty much what the pesto looks like when it's all cooked up, and I'm just going to take it and spread it down the middle of the pork tenderloin. So this is what it looks like after it's all spread down. I had just enough, and I'm just going to roll that up and slice it into sections that are, I'm going to try to make them all about the same size. So I have them all cut up. I put them, most of them, seam side down on the pan, which means the cut side down. A couple of them I don't have on there, and you can see I did not do a very good job at getting the fat off of a couple of them, but it's not too bad. Now the last step before it goes in the oven is to put some oil. I have the oil in a little saucer here, and I am going to add some apricot kernel oil. Now the recipe calls for olive oil, but olive oil tends to smoke at a lower temperature, so it's good on salads and like to saute or stir fry things. But you can see this one, it says refined for high heat, and if you look at the bottles, it'll usually tell you, you see this one says up to 495 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is a high heat oil, and I'm going to spread some of that on there. I don't think it's going to taste like apricots, so if it does, then I think that actually would be nice. And then after I get this in the oven, I have the oven on broil at 400 degrees. I'm going to put them on the top rack, and then I'm going to steam some green beans and top those green beans with some coconut oil, and just let the coconut oil melt and add just a little bit of the pink Himalayan salt to the green beans, and that will be dinner. So I preheated, those are going in on the top rack, and I have the green beans already in a steamer basket with just a little bit of water on the bottom. I'll turn them on in about, maybe when I turn the pork tenderloin over. I'm going to cook it for 7 minutes on one side. Put my timer on so I don't forget. Turn it over, each piece over, brush it with some more oil, and then put it back in for another 7 minutes. So I'll turn the green beans on. I don't like to leave them cook too long, so I'll turn them on when I'm ready to turn over the pork tenderloin. Just wanted to mention that the green beans, this time I bought them from Wegmans, clean cut, so I really didn't have to do anything. I washed them before putting them in the steamer. but there was no cutting involved. But I usually do buy the green beans, where I have to cut them and trim them, and it's not that big of a deal. But this is one option if you're really busy. So this is what it looks like when it's done. You definitely don't want to overcook the pork. About 6 to 7 minutes per side is perfect. And I have the green beans that were lightly steamed in a bowl ready for some. I'm going to put a tablespoon of organic extra virgin coconut oil on top and just a little bit of pink Himalayan salt and mix it all up.